Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on thyroid health. My name is Chanelle, and I am a certified holistic nutrition consultant here at VitaminLab. I'm excited to have you all join me today as we embark on a journey to explore the intricacies of thyroid function and wellness. So during today's presentation, we'll delve into the mechanisms of the thyroid and understand its pivotal role in maintaining overall health. We'll go over the basics of thyroid anatomy and function to the complexities of imbalance and how we can support this gland naturally through lifestyle and supplement interventions. While this topic is quite specific, I do believe it's an area that many of us could benefit from. Approximately 20 million Americans have a thyroid-related disease, and those are just the ones that are diagnosed. There should hopefully be some time at the end for questions, but if anything comes up throughout the presentation, feel free to pop it in the question and answer box, and I'll do my best to get to those. If I don't in today's presentation, I will certainly follow up with an email. There's also an emoji button. I think some of you have already found it, but if there's something that interests you or if you learned something new, feel free to give me a thumbs up or a smiley and let me know. I'll also ask some questions through the presentation. So if you want to answer, a pop-up box will appear. If it's covering any of the content on the screen, or if my video is covering any content on the screen, you can drag that around. And then just before we begin, just as a reminder, the statements made in today's presentation and the respective products are not intended to diagnose, treat, heal, or cure any disease or condition. So just an overview of what we'll be covering today. So we'll start with what is the thyroid and what does it do? We'll go into how the thyroid works. And then we'll look at what happens when there's an imbalance in thyroid function. So this is where we'll cover hypo and hyperthyroidism, what factors put the thyroid at risk, and then ways that we can support this naturally through lifestyle and supplement interventions. So what exactly is the thyroid? So the thyroid is part of the endocrine system, which is a network of glands that create and secrete certain hormones. The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped structure that's in the middle of the neck, and its main function is to control your metabolic function, or the rate at which your body burns energy or burns the food you eat for energy. So together with other glands in the endocrine system, the thyroid can play a role in regulating body temperature, digestion, fertility, skin moisture, and heart rate. And it does this by balancing substances like calcium, sodium, and water, so your body can maintain a consistent internal environment for your cells, and by secreting certain hormones. So the first is our thyroxine, or our T4. So this is your inactive thyroid hormone. So this is the primary hormone that your thyroid makes and releases. Although your thyroid makes most of this hormone, it doesn't have much of an effect on the metabolism. So once your thyroid releases T4 into your bloodstream, it can convert it to T3 through a process called deiodination. And our T3, so this is our active thyroid hormone. This is our triiodothyronine. So your thyroid produces lesser amounts of T3 than T4, but it has a much greater effect on metabolism. And then our calcitonin. So this hormone helps to regulate the amount of calcium in your blood. This balance is really important for the necessary functioning of your nerves, muscles, and heart. So how exactly does the thyroid work? So this is what's called the HPT axis, the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. So while the thyroid is extremely important, it does not work alone. So the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, both of which are located in the brain, help to control the thyroid. The hypothalamus releases thyrotropin-releasing hormone, or TRH, and this stimulates the pituitary gland to release thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH. So we'll take an example of when it's cold outside and your blood cools. This signals to the hypothalamus in the brain, which acts as a temperature gauge. When it senses that your temperature is below normal, it will release TRH, which will then signal the pituitary gland to release the TSH, yeah. This will be secreted into your bloodstream. When the thyroid receives this signaling from above, it then has three possible responses. It can increase function, decrease function, or maintain function. So if it's cold outside, the thyroid will want to increase function by encouraging the burning of glucose, creating energy to warm the body. And it does this by producing T3 and T4. So the T3 and T4 that are produced and secreted by the thyroid also serve as a negative feedback loop. So this signals to the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland they can stop producing their TRH and TSH, and that the thyroid has it under control. So while 20% of our T3 is produced by the thyroid, the remaining 80% of T3 is produced from the conversion of T4 to T3 by our organs like our liver and our kidneys. So the body also relies heavily on a healthy liver to support the thyroid in its mission to regulate our metabolism, or in this case, regulate our temperature. So if there is an imbalance in the system and it's not working well, one of two things can happen. The first is our hypothyroidism. So this is when the body is producing too little thyroid hormone. We can see this in an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's, and that's just one form of hypothyroidism. So again, for example, that temperature example, if your body temperature goes down, ideally your thyroid would increase its activity and burn energy to warm up the body. In this case, when there's hypothyroidism, because the thyroid cannot produce enough T3 and T4, the body remains cold even though the brain is signaling for the thyroid gland to activate. So this is why we see symptoms like cold body temperature, tiredness, weight gain, joint pain, and trouble, hair thinning as well. Now, the opposite happens when our body is producing too much thyroid hormone. This is called hyperthyroidism, an autoimmune disease called Graves', where the antibodies are attacking the thyroid. This is a form of hyperthyroidism. So in this case, the pituitary gland is signaling for the thyroid to stop producing hormones, but the receptors are still being activated by those antibodies. So it's not understanding that negative feedback loop. And the thyroid continues to produce thyroid hormones, the T3 and the T4. In this case, we're going to see opposite symptoms. So things like sweating or trouble tolerating heat, shaking, irritability, and weight loss. So again, when there's an imbalance in thyroid function, we may either swing into hypo or hyperthyroidism. Both of these disorders occur both in men and women, but it occurs more often in women. I am going to pop a question up if you want to take a vote on how many women you believe will experience a thyroid imbalance at some point in their lives. So I'll just give everyone a moment to vote there. All right, lots of votes all across the board. So 1 in 8 women will actually experience a thyroid imbalance at some point in their lives. It's much more common for hypothyroidism than hyperthyroidism. And we'll find out why women are more prone to this in our next slide. So what factors put the thyroid at risk? How can these imbalances happen? These are just some of the factors. Again, because hypothyroidism is so much more common than hyperthyroidism, we're really going to discuss more of the risks of low thyroid hormone. The first of which is very, very rare, is radioactive iodine. This actually damages the thyroid cells, eventually leading to the destruction of the gland. Interestingly, this can actually be used as a treatment in those with hyperthyroidism. Again, extremely, extremely rare unless you're living near a nuclear power plant. Age and sex also plays a role. So your risk of developing thyroid conditions is higher if you were assigned female at birth and are over the age of 60. So why are women more prone to this? Thyroid disorders are often triggered by an autoimmune reaction. We don't have information on why women are more susceptible to this than men, but they are, just overall autoimmune disease. And then secondly, there's an interplay between the thyroid hormones and the hormones that fluctuate during the menstrual cycle. Thyroid problems can happen at any time, but they're especially common in women during and after menopause when those hormone levels are changing. Some women may actually confuse the symptoms of thyroid disorders with the effects of menopause, which can prevent them from seeking treatment. Nutritional deficiencies as well. So these deficiencies can be caused by a diet lacking iodine or other minerals that are important for thyroid health, medications that deplete our bodies of these nutrients, or unaddressed allergies or leaky gut. So unaddressed allergies can actually increase the risk of thyroid disorder. There is some research out there that shows avoiding gluten may help alleviate some of the symptoms associated with autoimmune thyroid disorder. And the reason why gluten may be the trigger, so when leaky gut is present, gluten and other larger molecules can enter the bloodstream. Now I have a whole other webinar on gut health, so I won't go into too many details about how this all works. You can check out the YouTube page for that webinar if you'd like. But when this happens, the immune cells form antibodies against the gluten protein, which is called gliadin, to quickly detect and neutralize it. So due to very similar structures in gliadin and an enzyme called transglutaminase, which is found in the thyroid gland, the gluten antibodies will mistakenly attack the thyroid gland at the same time that it's attacking those gluten proteins because they look so similar. So this may be something that you'd want to avoid if you have an autoimmune thyroid condition and it seems to aggravate it. And then there are certain gene mutations that can put you at a higher risk of thyroid disorder. Again, it does not indicate that you will experience one. It's just a risk factor. So there is a certain gene called CYP2R1 gene, and variants in this gene may cause a lower baseline vitamin D. So vitamin D deficiency is 3 times higher in those with autoimmune thyroid disease than in a healthy population. So this may be something you'd want to consider if you have this gene mutation, is vitamin D supplementation. So how can we support our thyroid? So a big one out there, medication is often used, Synthroid, levothyroxine. This is an artificial thyroid hormone prescribed to over, I think, 6 million or 8 million people. So very, very common. But there are some natural approaches that we can take as well. So again, addressing those allergies. So maybe avoiding gluten if that seems to be a trigger for you. Or other allergies that you may have, other food allergies. Reducing stress is a big one. So cortisol levels can have an impact on thyroid function. So reducing our stress through lifestyle changes like journaling, meditation, exercise, this can all help support the thyroid and its function. And then maintaining a healthy body weight. So the larger the mass or the heavier our body weight, the more thyroid hormone is needed to regulate the processes in the body, which puts extra strain on this gland. And then again, we know our liver is really important for the conversion of the T4 to T3. So supporting our liver, not necessarily through a detox, but through healthy lifestyle habits. So drinking more water, reducing alcohol intake, focusing on nutrient-dense foods, and avoiding toxin exposure. And then, of course, our supplements. So there are quite a few supplements out there that can definitely help support the thyroid gland in its function. Again, after the presentation, I will send a copy of the webinar, so no need to take notes as we go on doses or anything. That will all be sent afterwards. So our first one is selenium. So this is a trace mineral and it plays a crucial role in thyroid function, specifically on the conversion of the inactive T4 to the active T3. So without this conversion, the body's not actually able to use much of the thyroid hormone. So this is quite necessary. And then selenium also has antioxidant properties that may help protect the gland against oxidative stress by neutralizing free radicals. Selenium deficiency may be associated with impaired thyroid hormone metabolism and increases the risk of autoimmune thyroid disorders due to its role in immune function. So interestingly, many selenium deficiency related diseases are associated with concurrent vitamin E deficiency. So this may be something you'd want to look at as well. Now for dosing, the RDA for selenium in healthy adults is 55 micrograms. We recommend working with a practitioner to determine what dose is right for you. The form of selenium that we use here at VitaminLab is L-selenomethanine, and this has an approximate 90% absorption rate. So doses often range between 50 to 100 micrograms. A common way to measure your selenium status is through plasma and serum concentrations. And again, this can be done through a qualified practitioner. So zinc is another important mineral when it comes to thyroid health. Like selenium, right off the bat, zinc deficiency has been linked to autoimmune thyroid conditions like Hashimoto's. Plays a really important role in immune function, so it can be quite beneficial for those with autoimmune thyroid disease. Zinc plays a crucial role in the metabolism of thyroid hormones, specifically regulating the enzymes that are responsible for the conversion or the activation of T4 to T3, and in regulating TSH synthesis. Interestingly, zinc transporters are found not only in the thyroid, but in the pituitary and the hypothalamus as well. So therefore, it's an important mineral for all proper functioning of all the glands in the HPT axis. When it comes to zinc supplementation, again, doses range quite a bit depending on your needs. So the RDA for a healthy male population is 11 milligrams, and for women, 8 milligrams. Supplementation can have up to about a 60% absorbency rate. So supplemental doses may appear higher than the RDA for this reason. Again, working with a practitioner will to help determine what dose and form of zinc is right for you is always ideal. And then our ashwagandha. So this is an adaptogenic herb. It's been used in Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, but its benefits are still being found. So it's been studied for its potential benefits on thyroid health. So a 2014 study explored the impact of ashwagandha on thyroid function. The findings suggested that just 8 weeks of ashwagandha supplementation exhibited significant improvements in THS, TSH, T3, and T4 levels. As an adaptogen, ashwagandha is also able to help reduce cortisol, which we know can improve thyroid hormone levels by reducing that stress. And then a 2018 study indicated that ashwagandha may have a regulating effect on the immune system, what suggests potential benefits for autoimmune thyroid conditions, again, like that Hashimoto's. So in that 8-week study, participants dosed with 600 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract. Now, the form that we use here at VitaminLab is sensoral ashwagandha, which uses the whole plant, not just the root. And this is about 2.4 times more potent than your typical ashwagandha. So in this case, this would be a 250 milligram dose of sensoral. As with many herbs, it's better to start on the lower end and slowly build up your dose over time based on your tolerance and if it's necessary. And then another important mineral is our iodine. So iodine status is a key determinant of thyroid disorders in adults. Iodine is required to make those thyroid hormones, so the thyroxine and the triiodothyronine, the T3 and T4. And then without enough iodine, these thyroid hormones do not work properly and can lead us to the underactive thyroid. Severe iodine deficiency may cause hypothyroidism because despite an increase in the thyroid activity to maximize iodine uptake, the iodine concentrations are just still too low to enable the production of the thyroid hormone. So those that are at a higher risk of iodine deficiency are those that are not using iodized salt or supplements, pregnant women, vegans, and those that are living in regions with low amount of iodine in their soil. So those people that live in mountainous regions may experience an iodine deficiency. I'm going to pop another question up, just a fun fact. Where do most people obtain most of their dietary iodine from? So I'll pop that question up here. And this is not necessarily the food with the highest concentration of iodine. It's just the source where most people are getting their iodine from. A lot of votes for iodized salts. Interestingly, it's milk. Yeah, cow's milk is where most people are getting their dietary iodine from. So interesting fact. So with iodine supplements, those with autoimmune thyroid disease or those with a chronic deficiency can be sensitive to supplementation, which can potentially aggravate the condition. So in this case, you'd probably want to avoid this in your formula. Now the RDA for iodine, 150 micrograms for healthy adults. So dosing will really depend on diet, health concerns, and any medication use. So iodine does have the potential to interact with some medications. So again, always best to review this with a healthcare professional before starting iodine supplements. Something to note if you are taking iodine supplements and do have a thyroid disorder, it can impair your thyroid testing results. It doesn't mean that you can't supplement with it. We just recommend that you discontinue use about a week before your test so you can have the most accurate reading. It can lead to falsely elevated TSH levels. Same with biotin. So that's another supplement you may want to discontinue use about a week before just to get the most accurate reading. Again, doesn't mean you can't supplement with it, but just change up your routine. And then the last supplement I'm going to go over today is our L-tyrosine. So tyrosine is an amino acid. It's made naturally in the body by another amino acid called phenylalanine. Tyrosine is an essential precursor to the thyroid hormone, and it's an essential component in the production and synthesis of T4 and T3. As we talked about earlier, stress can also impact thyroid function. So adequate levels of L-tyrosine are really important during periods of stress. Under stress, our body cannot make enough of this on its own. So supplementation may be helpful to maintain thyroid levels if you experience chronic stress. If there's an imbalance in thyroid or tyrosine levels, it can potentially impact the thyroid function. So this imbalance might occur due to certain medications that interfere with tyrosine production or conversion, which can therefore affect the synthesis of T3 and T4. In your diet, tyrosine is usually obtained through meat, dairy, fish, nuts, and avocados. But supplementation may be considered in individuals with low dietary intake, those with increased requirements, or paired with other nutrients for part of a thyroid health protocol. So doses normally range from 250 to 500 milligrams for thyroid support. So there's our 5 ingredients that we covered today are selenium, zinc, ashwagandha, iodine, and tyrosine. Oftentimes when we do one of these webinars, not all ingredients should necessarily be taken together. Not really the case with the thyroid. This can be paired quite nicely as a protocol designed to support thyroid function and health. Doses may just differ. We may need to maybe omit things if you're taking certain medications. So always best to consult with your primary care practitioner. If you want more kind of advice on your specific formula or these specific ingredients, I'll link to our booking page afterwards, and you can book a call with either myself or my colleague Talia. We're both certified holistic nutrition consultants, and we're happy to chat with you a bit more on your specific formula, your health needs. I do see a couple questions that are posted. They are kind of specific to the individual. So what I'm going to do is I will send an email afterwards, again, linking our booking page and answering those specific questions. But if anything does come up and you have any questions about any of the ingredients we chatted about today, any of the studies that I referenced, feel free to send us an email, give us a call. And again, I'll link to that booking page if you want to have a more individualized approach to your formula. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. And I hope you all learned something new in regards to thyroid health. Thank you.